So we're going to talk about emotions now, and they are a very important part of our inner struggles because the inner struggles arise from our emotions. So let's look at that. What are emotions exactly? Well, Wikipedia defines them as mental states brought on by neurophysiological changes which are variously associated with thoughts, feelings, behavioural responses, and a degree of pleasure or displeasure. There's actually, funnily enough, currently no scientific consensus on the definition of what emotions actually are, but we're all very much aware of what they are when they exist. In simple terms, emotions are mental and physiological response to a thought or a situation which acts as a trigger. So it's important to note that they involve both a mental and a physical response, and removing either of these removes the emotion. Generally, emotions come and go, but they can, in situations, linger far longer than we would like, and this can give rise to inner struggles. The role of emotions in our lives is important. They act as our personal sat-nav, guiding us through life away from things that are harmful and towards things that are good and pleasurable. Their primary aims are to keep us safe, so as to enable the continued propagation of our species. So your emotions are very important to your survival, and they help protect you. They also help motivate you, and of course they add a great deal of quality to your life when they're good emotions. But sometimes they act in a way that's not in your best interests. Negative emotions can linger if we ignore the warnings that they are offering, if we're not paying attention to them, or if we're unable to respond to their warnings at that time. They can remain stuck on if we regularly ignore them, rather like an alarm system that's developed some sort of fault. Negative emotions occur so that the pain of a negative event creates a learning experience for us to help us remain safe, as I've already said. To ensure that we learn from a negative experience, they remain imprinted in our memories far more indelibly than positive experiences. This is known as a negative cognitive bias, which is negatively biased thinking, and you might be aware of that. This negativity bias tends to overlook good news and to highlight bad news, which over time can tend to create anxiety and pessimism. Our survival has required that we have this negative bias in our recollection and our memory so that we learn to avoid these unpleasant and perhaps dangerous experiences. Furthermore, we also tend to compound our suffering by the way we react and the way we think about our unpleasant experiences. So what can we do to avoid having a lifetime of angst, of negative memories that we're building up as we live our lives so we can live happily and avoid negative things such as anxiety, depression, overwhelm, and all these other negative emotional effects of a lot of negative memories? Well, we'll address that later. Our negative cognitive bias is made worse by our confirmation bias, which is the tendency to search for, interpret, favour and recall information in a way that confirms or supports one's prior beliefs or values. I've heard it described this way, that we've got two parts to our mind. We've got a thinker and a prover. And what the thinker thinks, the prover goes about proving as being correct. Our survival has required that we have this negative bias in our recollection and our memory so that we learn to avoid these unpleasant and possibly dangerous experiences.